more than 100 centuries, the Emperor has sat immobile on the golden throne of Earth. He is the master of mankind by the will of the gods, and master of 1,000,000 worlds by the might of his inexhaustible armies. He is a rotting carcass writhing invisibly with power from the dark age of technology. He is the Carrion Lord of the Imperium, for whom 1,000 souls die every day, for whom blood is drunk and flesh eaten. Human blood and human flesh, the stuff of which the Imperium is made. To be a man in such times is to be one amongst untold billions. It is to live in the cruellest and most bloody regime imaginable. This is a tale of those times. The Warhammer 40K verse is defined by aeons-long struggle between the nascent Imperium of Man and the insidious forces of chaos. At the heart of this conflict lies the tragic fate of the Emperor of Mankind, crippled and interred upon the Golden Throne, a psychic bulwark against a tide of demonic horror. The commonly accepted narrative points to the Horus Heresy as a catalyst to this downfall, a galaxy-spanning civil war orchestrated by the four great powers of chaos: Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle and Slaanesh. But a persistent, more unsettling question lingers in the dark corners of lore. Did the Chaos Gods plan this outcome, this specific devastating downfall, from the very beginning of the Emperor's rise to prominence, or perhaps even earlier? Greetings all, I am your guide, the Archivist. Today I will dive into the details of if the Chaos Gods planned the Emperor's downfall all along. Before we begin, please make sure to like the like and subscribe waypoints, or join to become an acolyte down below, so that more people can learn from the archives. To grapple with this question requires a deep dive into the nature of the Chaos Gods themselves and the long complex history of the Emperor. The ruinous powers are not mere pantheon deities with linear objectives and 5-year plans. They are entities born from the collective emotions, thoughts, actions and psychic energies of mortal beings across the galaxy, and indeed potentially the cosmos. They are embodiments of fundamental aspects of existence: war, change, decay, and pleasure and pain. Their goals are not typically destroying reality in a simple sense, but rather reshaping it in their image, drowning it in the raw, unbound energy of the warp, and feeding upon the spiritual and emotional output of sentient life. Given this nature, the idea of a meticulously crafted multi-millennial plan for a specific purpose of crippling one individual, even one as powerful as the Emperor, seems somewhat contrary to their fundamental modus operandi. Chaos is often depicted as opportunistic, reactive and driven by its intrinsic urges rather than complex, long-term strategy in the conventional sense. They seize upon existing flaws, exploit moments of weakness, and revel in the unfolding chaos their influence creates, regardless of the precise outcome. However, the Emperor was no ordinary individual. His immense psychic power, his millennia-long life, and his singular purpose of uniting humanity and eradicating superstition and warp reliance represented an existential threat to the very existence of the Chaos Gods. His proposed Webway project, had it succeeded, would have drastically reduced the need for interstellar travel through the warp, effectively starving the gods of psychic energy and denying them access to mortal souls on a galactic scale. His vision of an atheist, enlightened Imperium was anathema to their power base, rooted in faith, fear, and suffering. It is highly probable, therefore, that the Emperor attracted the attention of the Chaos Gods long before the Great Crusade. His unique power and his ambition to order the galaxy would have registered as a significant disturbance in the subtle currents of the warp. Ancient lore hints at entities interacting with humanity throughout its history, often implied to be early manifestations or agents of chaos. Whether these interactions constituted a direct plan for the Emperor's future downfall is debatable. It is more likely that chaos sought to hinder humanity's progress, corrupt potential leaders, and generally sow discord, as they have done for countless species before. The Emperor's emergence was simply another, more significant factor to contend with. We know through study of the archives that the Emperor of Man once entered into the realm of chaos through a warp gate. It was within this chaotic realm that the future Emperor made a fateful choice. Entering the warp through this gate, he sought power and knowledge beyond mortal reach. What followed was a clandestine bargain with the Chaos Gods, an agreement shrouded in secrecy and filled with risk. This bargain granted the Emperor new incredible powers, as well as knowledge that would come to define his destiny. It was in the depths of the warp that he learned how to craft something unprecedented, the Primarchs. These were superhuman beings created by merging ancient arcane genetic science with the energies of the warp itself. The Primarchs would become the foundation of the new Imperium, mighty leaders and warriors, each with unique strengths, all designed to unify and protect humanity. A crucial point suggesting a degree of early, albeit perhaps not fully formed intent, lies in the details surrounding this Primarch project. The Emperor's 20 gene sons were scattered across the galaxy by forces unknown shortly after their gestation. While the exact mechanics are shrouded in mystery, the prevailing lore points towards the direct intervention of the Chaos Gods. This act was unequivocally detrimental to the Emperor's plans. It deprived him of his most vital tools and introduced the variable of the Primarch's upbringing into diverse, often harsh environments, away from his direct guidance. This scattering can be interpreted as a deliberate act to prevent the Emperor from consolidating his power too quickly and too completely. Was the plan at this stage simply to corrupt them and instigate a civil war, or was it simply to disrupt, delay, and introduce elements of unpredictability that chaos thrives upon? Given the chaotic nature of the scattering and the varied fates of the Primarchs, it seems more likely that this was an act of sabotage aimed at fracturing the Emperor's strength, creating future opportunities for manipulation, rather than setting a precise plot in motion for the heresy itself. The true intensification of Chaos's efforts and the solidification of something resembling a plan likely occurred during the Great Crusade. As the Imperium expanded, purging Xenos threats and superstitious cults alike, the existential threat to the ruinous powers became immediate and undeniable. The Emperor was succeeding in ways no single mortal had before, challenging the very foundations of their power. This period saw a significant surge in Chaos's direct and indirect intervention. In later times, the Chaos Gods would come to see the Emperor in a very different light. Despite their initial willingness to strike a deal with him, the Chaos deities recognized that his strength and vision posed a grave threat. They regarded him as an enemy more formidable than any other threat in the entire galaxy. They even bestowed upon him the harsh title, the Anathema, meaning a dangerous foe that could not be tolerated. This shift in perception marked the beginning of a long struggle, with the Chaos Gods viewing him not as an ally, but as an obstacle in their plans. They exploited the specific flaws, insecurities, and ambitions of the individual Primarchs, Lorgar's desperate need for worship, Magnus's thirst for knowledge and pride, Fulgrim's pursuit of perfection, Conrad Kurz's nihilism, Mortarian's resentment, Angron's rage, Perturabo's bitterness, and of course, Horus's ambition and eventual disillusionment. The details of each Primarch's corruption are complex and varied, often involving seemingly minor events leveraged into catastrophic outcomes by subtle whispers, tempting visions, or the strategic placement of artifacts and individuals. For instance, Lorgar's pilgrimage into the Eye of Terror after his censure provided the catalyst for his direct pact with Chaos, setting in motion a chain of events that would ensnare others.
Hope is the first step on the road to disappointment.
This quote, often attributed to figures influenced by Chaos, underscores the insidious nature of their manipulation, preying on aspirations only to twist them into despair and servitude. The plan, if one can call it that, evolved from general interference to a focused effort to subvert the Emperor's most trusted lieutenants. Horus Lupercal, elevated to War Master, represented the opportune target. His trauma on Davin, famously engineered by Erebus and the other Chaos agents, was the critical turning point, opening him up to direct manipulation on a massive scale. The subsequent corruption of other Primarchs wasn't a uniform process dictated by a single ancient blueprint, but a series of individual campaigns tailored to each of the Chaos Gods or their lieutenants for the specific vulnerabilities of their chosen targets. The Horus Heresy itself was the culmination of these efforts, a massive reactive strike against the Emperor's success. It wasn't necessarily the only outcome Chaos desired from the start. A complete victory, where the Webway project failed and the Imperium collapsed entirely, and the galaxy was fully consumed by the warp, might have been the ideal scenario for the ruinous powers. However, facing the imminent threat posed by the Emperor, instigating a devastating civil war that would cripple humanity, shatter its unity, and inflict unimaginable suffering, was a highly effective alternative. It ensured the Emperor was removed as an active threat, halted the Webway project, and bathed the galaxy in the very emotions and action that fuels chaos. The aftermath, the crippled Emperor, the stagnant, superstitious Imperium locked in eternal war, is a state that, while not perhaps the original goal from millennia past, is arguably highly beneficial to chaos. The constant conflict, the pervasive fear, the desperate faith, and the endless cycle of death. And decay. These are the raw materials upon which Chaos Gods gorge themselves. The galaxy is a battleground where the long war never ends.
The long war never ends.
This grim affirmation, the rallying cry of Abaddon the Despoiler, perfectly encapsulates the state of the galaxy after the heresy. It is a perpetual conflict that serves the Chaos Gods' interests far better than the Emperor's vision of ordered peace ever would have. It is our view at the archives that the current state of the Emperor could have been traced all the way back to that very first interaction of the Chaos Gods and the Emperor of mankind. He sought power and struck a bargain with them. Even from that moment, his every action has been tainted with the powers of chaos. While they may have been amused by him initially, his growing power and influence soon wrought their attention, but in a far different light. Could the seeds of his downfall have been sown even then? After all, the Chaos Gods gave the Emperor the knowledge to create the Primarchs, only for them to eventually strike him down. Did they know this all along, or were they interested only in their own amusement? And one question remains: what did the Emperor give the Chaos Gods in their bargain on Molech? In conclusion, while the Chaos Gods were undoubtedly aware of the Emperor and likely sought to hinder him from a relatively early point in his history, the notion of a meticulously planned downfall, specifically culminating in the Horus Heresy and the Emperor's specific fate on the Golden Throne, is likely an oversimplification. The scattering of the Primarchs was a significant act of sabotage, creating the condition for future conflict, but the precise plan for the heresy itself seemed to have solidified and been executed in a direct opportunistic response to the unprecedented threat posed by the Emperor's success during the Great Crusade. The Chaos Gods, acting through their fundamental natures and exploiting the inherent flaws and circumstances they helped create, engineered a galaxy-altering catastrophe. While they may not have drawn up a precise millennia-spanning blueprint from the absolute beginning, they certainly capitalized on every opportunity, reacting and adapting with terrifying effectiveness to secure their enduring influence over the fate of humanity. The heresy was not a preordained fate etched in warpstone since the Emperor's inception, but a devastating complex outcome of cosmic game, where Chaos Gods played the long odds by exploiting short-term opportunities, ultimately reshaping the galaxy into a form far more favorable for their dark designs. And so I've now covered the content for this video, but if there's anything that has been missed, please share them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this content, please like the like and subscribe waypoints, or join to become an acolyte down below, so that more people can learn from the archives. Consider continuing your journey into the librarium with the video displayed on screen.
In the grim dark of the far future, there is only war.